Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is another section of the Political Minute. Um, Today is Sunday, 31st of October, 2020. Just in looking at one of these with where a guy was on private security, so he can watch my stuff without any form of having a view on it or anything else, and I'm just like, can't you just set it to play all of them at the end of whatever when you're not in the house as a screensaver or something else and turn the volume off? Yeah, that would be very helpful. Anyway, just saying right here, if you've watched a few of them, like and subscribe, however it is, something out there with it. He did kind of go off about some things out there, and I'll have to be honest, it does kind of go with me, and just like, in hindsight, if there was people who were going to be asking questions about, excuse me, something in the area, something that would be of a reason to do. Any type of questions, I'm sure every single one of them would be like, well, I can't comment on this. Expanded Barnett questions. Again, just for the sake of argument. What is the president's ability over imposing will on people groups as commander-in-chief, i.e. natives, and becoming one as their leader over all chiefs? Also representations, also anything that has to do with such as his religion, being since the Constitution is derived and protected by the president. And some people believe that he can bestow that upon people, making the Constitution in a form its own religion. And that only in meeting with each president elected can they tell you what amendments and how they can be given to each person, since there is no Declaration of Independence and declarational law is no longer used. As well as that which is the Do Not Tread on Me, which shows united representation over that which is jurisdiction and judicialship, and that the Supreme Court operates at the situation of the president. I know I'm not quoting him directly, and I've probably thrown in a couple of other things, but these are some of the situations out there that they would be looking at. Under the Eisenhower Doctrine out there and dealing with Native Americans, he is chief above all chiefs and everything else. Does that then ergo mean that he is the actual tribal member by reasons of election alone and not of that which is biological descent? Does this also mean that in conjunction that he is the head of any racial group in the United States and or family? As we see that this could be possibly a slippery slope into that which is a situation of prima nocta, which was over in England, where basically through needing to be descended from a lineage of the presidency for you to have full constitutional rights, since the checks and balances, main parts of law, have been removed, except for the executive order branch, and the others can be dismissed without any reason other than the president's say-so, and operate at the president's whim under those situations, since even the Supreme Court cannot use declarational law. And does this lead to a situation where, like in Christianity, people can be exiled inside the area And that is what the true nature of bearing of arms is to kill off those that are exiled in the United States of America. Also, if the president comes from a group of human sacrificing situations, such as being a member of, say, one of these messianic orders from overseas that believes in sacrificing people off, natives of any place, so that they can then take the place of them and have some sort of religious colonization for it, as well as that which is hiding the fact from there and saying that through war people have changed, been scarred, however it is, come over and have kids and everything else. This is something that has been addressed in Tennessee state law after the advent of incendiary grape shot that was used, and certain people being disfigured, coming back with mementos saying that they didn't have all their memories. Amnesia from the battlefield and head injuries was one of the first things that was out there, and is a punishable situation under law and state law in the state of Tennessee. Moving over to human sacrifice, I mean, that just is the identity fraud situation of it, but into human sacrifice for achievement or of power in society and situations to where one would have to use some form of religion in order to sacrifice someone in order to achieve that, saying that it is the national religion of the time, so to speak of. It's what's hot and, cool out there for whatever it is. And due to the fact that you do so much greatness under your version of whatever you think is really the national pop cultural religion, that then you can therefore remove yourself from it, and no one's supposed to step on your mojo because you're in political office and have achieved that through your actions. Therefore, you separate yourselves from that. And that whatever the president's religion is the national religion, right down to chemicals in the meat and everything else, which, yes, the president does need to be kept up with his party and, elected officials across the board, make sure they have the proper nutrition and everything, but then have that be put upon anyone else out there, irregardless of if it's good or bad for them. And just say, well, naturally, everybody has to be kind of made in my image. Can the president then use the First Amendment to be like, there's not a national religion, but there is a dominance? He may not pull from any dogma or anything else while he's in there or anything else, but is he able to do that to the rest of the populace and have people go out and influence it over his will, as he remains separate from it? Basically, here's my paper. Do this for me. Goodbye. See you in 4 years if I'm elected out, or 8 years. Or if they do away with term limits whenever I'm not in. And since most of this would probably be thrown out with the advent of declarational law, because the original amendments or minutes, that was what made the foundation of the Declaration of Independence and the reasons why, such as certain things over marriage with natives being nullified, that the king or queen had instilled upon the United States populace. Also, certain things that went to the protection of the common good, and that there would be no such things as people sacrificing or anything else like that. And most of all these from the New Year's separation of churches and the obligations one has to that church and or way of presenting themselves in the United States, since most of all of that is attached to those early minutes and Declaration of Law is not there, would there be a repeal of that which is the New Year's holiday, or else an amendment to what it is, or snipping and trimming of it, since Declaration of Law is not there? Or do you think that the Supreme Court would be bringing Declaration of Law back in because of the situation out there that even if you're doing human sacrificing underneath Christianity, which no human sacrifice is stronger than Jesus to Christians, of any of their situations, be it Orthodoxy, Protestant, or traditional Catholic? Would there be any moving or permanent removal of the declarational law and everything else, since most of all of that is not even attached to a founding father's lineage by the way that anything is here? Or would there be any way that you could say that you could see a legal question coming up over, is the United States actually attached to the legal lineages of any founding fathers or people that are founders of, bills and things that have came up on that? Or else is it a thing of that which is pure logic and understanding under the law? Furthermore, if the declaration is not to be used as law, does that negate with past lines of thought of freedom of religion and reasons internationally for the possibility of colonization? Under the fact that there is no declaration of separation from original colonies or anything else, even though basically, from what I can glean, there is no Western or Central European power that can colonize anymore. There may be groups in the Eastern Orthodox with how they came up that can colonize. Chinese colonization, African colonization, Latin American colonization, or Pacific Island colonization. Is it not a legal situation that we could see, because the military can go with whoever it wants to go with, under the fact that they're not independent and is still in the form of the office of the United States President? Would non-declarational law not being used lead it to wherever the president could possibly have leanings to in an original and habitational situation? Many people have said, for me, I'm not allowed to have connections to overseas family. But yet, most people do have the right of connections to overseas family. So if the president, whether it's, he likes Japanese anime or actually has family in France, would he not lean to that and be allowed to say, in a way, it's kind of like favorite nation colonization, where people can go and have the area in and of itself be like, well, we're a temporary colony of this place or the other, because since he's the commander-in-chief of the military, and we lean with whatever their military political situations are, since we don't really have full independence from there. And in saying that, since the do not tread on me is attached to juries and courts and everything else, and it's not even really my opinion, this is what it really was originally done with. And they say that the lineage of the person who actually came up with the diagram and everything else doesn't really exist, and has had to be handed off to like a second or third cousin around here and other situations like that. And these three main martyrs that were down in South Carolina, for original situations over making it, have no lineage left of them in any way, or else have no son lineage left of them. I mean, the original Constitution was written that man represented both sides of the situation. And then, due to the fact that our language was so corrupted by loss of people in war, that we lost sight of that and ended up, for lack of a better way, abusing women in a way for 150 years. Or more or less. I'm sure that there is someone that is a proper scholar over numbers that can come up with it. But the situation over colonization, in and of itself, do the individual dioceses or maybe even atheism or anywhere else, massive numbers of whatever it is for Protestants that people assume are English, or anything else out there with it, does that not situate that the local areas can then go with their original situational governments and everything else, since there is no declaration of independence? It has nothing to do with declaring war on one person or anything else, but just has a situation of saying what it is during war, after war, or anything else. Now, granted, I will say that it's way past anything to do with questions to the Supreme Court or anything else, and a lot of it is softball, and I will say a lot of people did go off about certain things, and I'm going, let's try not to be that controversial, but maybe I brought a couple of things to light, was able to do something, say something, or else push it in a way. Also, just in saying that, does anybody, realize that we legalistically are in the time of Emperor Palpatine, and it's just waiting for whichever president really does want to disband their representative body, the Senate, and the courts, and just have everything underneath, don't make me notice you. Anyway, like and subscribe. Colin Dawson.